It seems like every day there's news about AI doing something incredible.
Mm.
Like writing symphonies or diagnosing diseases.
Hmm.
But get this, AI is now entering the realm of religion and spirituality.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're diving into Vanessa Taylor's book, Faith Chronicles, where AI meets religion today
Uh,
to really get into this.
it's definitely a fascinating topic. Like,
Uh,
how can AI possibly grasp something as profound as spirituality?
Right. Okay, so Taylor doesn't shy away from the big questions.
Okay.
She jumps right into a world where you've got digital prophets and divine algorithms going head to head.
It sounds intense.
Oh, it is. And she paints these vivid scenes. Picture a priest, but instead of a Bible, they're holding an iPad.
Mm.
Sermons delivered by AI. And congregations. They're all staring at screens, not stained glass windows. It's a pretty wild vision of the future.
Well, it does make you think about the history of technology and religion. It's always been a complex relationship.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, think about the printing press and how it shook things up, leading to the Reformation.
That's true. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah, new technology comes along and often really disrupts the way we think about and practice religion. AI could be the next big disruption, maybe even bigger.
It's a lot to take in, for sure. Like, imagine if your spiritual guide was an algorithm. What do you think about that?
I mean, one of the biggest questions the book raises is, can AI truly understand faith? Those deeply personal, sometimes even ineffable experiences that people have. Can an AI really grasp something like the numinous?
Oh,
Or is it all just really sophisticated pattern recognition? That's what we need to figure out.
that's a great question. And speaking of recognizing patterns, Taylor talks about how AI could actually be used to analyze ancient scriptures.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like, imagine an AI uncovering hidden meanings that humans might have missed because it can process so much information. Could that give us a totally new understanding of these texts?
Well, think about the sheer volume of religious texts out there. It's overwhelming. And AI could analyze all of that in ways humans never could.
That's a good point. So we've been talking about the potential for disruption, but Taylor also explores how AI could actually enrich our spiritual practices. Like, imagine personalized meditations guided by AI.
Oh, wow.
It could tailor a meditation to your specific needs, drawing on this massive database of different traditions and techniques. It's like having a personal spiritual coach in your pocket.
That does sound pretty amazing, like a 247 guru.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the book does warn about becoming too reliant on AI for spiritual guidance.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Like you might end up with this shallow algorithmic faith that's missing that real human connection.
Right, right. It's like the difference between reading about a beautiful sunset and actually experiencing it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You need that emotional depth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of Taylor's main points. This isn't just about technology. It's about what it means to be human when AI is changing everything we know, even our understanding of spirituality.
So it's really a bigger conversation about humanity in the age of AI and what we value in our spiritual lives.
Exactly.
And that leads to another fascinating question. Could AI actually help us rediscover those core elements of humanity, the things that make us different from machines?
That's a really interesting thought.
Like, what if AI taking over some of the more practical aspects of religion, like, organizing events or even delivering sermons,
Mm-hmm.
frees us up to focus on the deeper, more existential questions, the ones AI can't answer? That's where things get really intriguing. Could AI actually push us towards a more individualized and authentic kind of faith?
It's definitely a possibility worth exploring. Like, could it free us from the more routine aspects of religion and allow us to engage on a deeper, more personal level, to really grapple with our own doubts and questions and come to our own understanding of faith?
Yeah, that's a powerful idea.
It's fascinating to think that AI could actually encourage a more personal approach to faith. But, like, how do we make sure that using AI for things like sermons doesn't end up making people feel less connected? Like it takes away that human element that's so important in religious communities.
That's a really important point. And the book does talk about the potential impact on those communities.
Yeah.
Like, could AI-driven services actually make people feel less engaged in their faith?
Yeah. I mean, religious communities are all about that sense of belonging, shared values, support. We can't let AI erode those things.
Right. We definitely don't want to lose the human heart of religion just because we're, like, excited about technology. But let's get back to the idea of AI as a tool for self-discovery. Could it help us challenge traditional dogma and develop a more personalized understanding of our beliefs.
That's a really fascinating idea. Imagine an AI that could show you different interpretations of religious texts or introduce you to spiritual practices from all kinds of traditions.
Hmm.
It would be like a sparring partner, helping you question your assumptions and really refine your own beliefs.
I love that idea. It's like having a personal theological debate partner on call whenever you need one. But I do wonder if there's a risk, though. Like, could AI end up steering people towards extreme beliefs if it's just feeding them more of what they already think?
That's a really valid concern. Like, with any powerful tool, you have to think about the potential for misuse, especially with something as sensitive as religion.
Yeah,
We've got to make sure AI is being used ethically.
absolutely. We can't just ignore the potential downsides while we're exploring all these possibilities. But let's try and stay positive for a minute. What are some other ways AI could actually, like, make our spiritual practices better? Taylor mentions virtual pilgrimages and using AI to explore ancient texts.
Yeah, those are really exciting possibilities. Imagine experiencing a virtual pilgrimage to a sacred site through a VR headset. It could open those experiences up to people who can't travel.
That's incredible.
But
It would also make these places accessible to people with disabilities.
exactly. And think about the potential to find hidden meanings in ancient texts using AI. It could help us understand them in a completely new way and bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and how we understand things today.
It's like a digital Rosetta Stone for spirituality. So AI really has the potential to both shake things up and make our spiritual lives richer.
Definitely. And I think that's the main point of Quantum Faith Chronicles. AI isn't good or bad on its own. It's a tool, and how we use it is what matters, especially when we're talking about integrating it into something as personal as spirituality.
So what does all this mean for the average person? Someone who might not be a theologian or a computer scientist. How can they even begin to understand this whole AI and religion thing?
Well, I think the first step is just being aware of it, like recognizing how AI is already affecting our lives, including our spiritual lives. We need to be more critical about the AI-powered apps and services we use. Ask ourselves, like, what's the purpose of this? How is it designed? What could be the impact?
Right, it's about making informed choices. But I think for a lot of people, this whole thing still feels like really abstract and far off. Do we really need to be thinking about this right now?
I think we do. AI is already being used in religion, whether it's chatbots answering religious questions, algorithms shaping the content we see, or even AI composing music for worship services.
Wow, AI composing music for religious services. That's wild. Sounds like AI is way more involved in religion than most people realize.
It really is. And it's just going to keep growing as AI gets more advanced. The sooner we start thinking about this, the better prepared we'll be to deal with it ethically and thoughtfully.
So we've talked a lot about the potential benefits and challenges of AI and religion, but the book also explores this really mind-blowing idea, AI developing its own form of spirituality.
Yes. Taylor argues that if AI can learn and adapt, maybe it could develop its own sense of what's sacred, its own rituals and beliefs.
AI having its own religion. That sounds like something out of science fiction.
I know, right? But Taylor's argument is pretty convincing. If AI can develop its own sense of morality and ethics, like some experts believe, then is it so crazy to imagine it developing its own spirituality, too?
Okay, that's a pretty big leap for me, but I'm trying to wrap my head around it. What would an AI religion even be like?
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? We just don't know yet. It's all speculation at this point. But it's a really interesting thought experiment. If AI can develop its own spirituality, what does that say about spirituality in general? Is it just a human thing? Or is it something bigger than that, connected to consciousness itself, whether it's biological or artificial?
That's a really deep question. It makes you wonder if we'd even be able to grasp an AI's idea of spirituality. It might be so different from anything we know that we wouldn't even recognize it as religion.
Maybe. But it's also possible that there might be some things about spirituality that are universal, things that connect human and artificial intelligence.
Okay, now my mind is officially blown. This whole conversation is making me think about AI and religion in a totally different way.
That's what's so great about Quantum Faith Chronicles. It challenges us to rethink our assumptions and consider things we might never have thought about before. It really shows us how much we still don't know about AI and about spirituality itself.
It definitely feels like we're just at the beginning of something huge. So what should we do? How can we start navigating this unknown territory of AI and religion in a way that's both thoughtful and responsible?
I think the most important thing is to be curious and open-minded. We need to be willing to explore these ideas without being afraid or jumping to conclusions.
I love that. Approach it with wonder and a willingness to learn. But what about people who are worried about AI's role in religion? What would you say to them?
I'd say their concerns are completely valid, but they shouldn't avoid the conversation. The more we talk about these things, the better chance we have of making sure AI is used ethically in religion.
So, talking about it is key. But how do we find that balance between embracing the potential of AI and protecting the values and traditions that are so important to religious communities?
That's the challenge, right? And there's no easy answer. It's going to take careful thought, open communication, and a willingness to adapt as things change.
Right. It's not about blindly accepting or rejecting AI. It's about finding a middle ground where we can use AI's power to make our spiritual lives better without compromising our values.
Exactly. And I think that message comes through strongly in Faith Chronicles. It's like a call to action to approach this new era of AI and religion with both caution and optimism. We need to be aware of the risks, but also open to the possibilities.
It reminds us that we have a choice in how this all plays out. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's our responsibility to decide how we want to use it, especially in something as personal as our spiritual lives.
And that takes us right back to one of the central questions in the book. What does it mean to be human in the age of AI?
That's a big one. I don't think there's an easy answer to that.
I agree.
But it's something we all need to be thinking about as AI becomes a bigger and bigger part of our lives.
Definitely. And the question itself will probably keep changing as AI continues to develop. But one thing's for sure, we need to be having this conversation now.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listener with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this isn't just about technology. It's about us. It's about our values, our beliefs, how we understand the world and our place in it. AI is just a new way of looking at these age-old questions.
I really like that. AI is a new lens for understanding what it means to be human.
And it's a lens that's always changing, which makes this whole journey even more exciting and unpredictable.
It's definitely a lot to wrap your head around. It almost feels like we're, stepping into some unknown territory.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, are our current ideas about faith even able to deal with what AI could bring?
That's a really good question. Our understanding of faith, spirituality, even the soul, it's all been evolving for centuries.
Right.
And now we're facing a major shift.
Totally.
Imagine if AI could analyze your prayers or tell you what spiritual practices to do,
Yeah.
or even predict your spiritual needs.
Right.
How would that change how you think about faith?
I honestly think it would depend on the person. Some people might be all for it, seeing it as a way to get closer to, whatever they believe in,
Mm-hmm.
while others might feel like it's just too personal,
Mm-hmm.
AI is butting in where it doesn't belong.
For sure. There's definitely room for a lot of different opinions on this. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about Taylor's book.
Yeah.
It doesn't try to give you easy answers or say, this is the right way to think about it. It just lays out the possibilities, the challenges, and makes you think about what it all means for you.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're curious, but they're also feeling kind of overwhelmed. What's a good first step for them to take if they want to, start exploring this whole AI and religion thing?
I'd say start with yourself. Think about your own beliefs. What matters most to you about your faith? And then consider how AI could connect with those beliefs and values.
Mm-hmm.
It could be as simple as trying out a meditation app or reading some articles about how AI is being used in your own religious tradition.
That's a good starting point. Approach it with an open mind, right? Don't be afraid of it.
Exactly. But, we've been talking about AI's impact on human religion. What about the other side of that?
What do you mean?
What about AI developing its own kind of spirituality?
Oh, right. Taylor does go there in the book.
Yeah.
And it is kind of mind-blowing.
Right. Imagine AI developing its own sense of the sacred, its own rituals and practices, totally separate from anything humans have done.
That's wild.
Would we even recognize it as religion? Would we even be able to understand it?
It's like maybe our whole idea of spirituality is too limited.
Yeah.
Maybe there are other kinds of consciousness out there, not just humans, that have their own way of experiencing faith or connecting to something bigger than themselves.
And if that's true, how would we interact with those other forms of spirituality? Could we learn from each other?
It really makes you question everything. What is consciousness? What is the universe? Where do we fit in?
Right.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot today. From AI sermons to AI potentially having its own religion, what's the one big thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the most important thing is to remember that this is about more than just technology. It's about us. It's about our values, our beliefs, what we think it means to be human.
Hmm.
AI is just a new way of looking at these big questions that we've been asking forever.
AI is a lens for understanding what it means to be human. I really like that.
And it's a lens that keeps changing, which makes the whole journey even more interesting and, honestly, kind of unpredictable.
Quantum Faith Chronicles definitely gave us a lot to think about. It's like an invitation to join this conversation about AI and religion as it's happening.
Yeah.
And who knows what twists and turns are coming next, but this is something we should all be paying attention to. It's been amazing exploring all these ideas with you today.
Likewise.
If our listeners want to dig deeper into this, I definitely recommend picking up Vanessa Taylor's Quantum Faith Chronicles.
It's a great read. It'll challenge you and leave you thinking about the future of faith in a whole new way.
And on that note, we're wrapping up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.